Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tech Champions. I'm your host, Daniel Beaty, CTO with AuditMax in Jacksonville, Florida. As you know, we take time each week to sit down with thought leaders and industry experts. And in the field of technology, we learn all about their journey and their mission, and we get their take on the latest trends in the industry. We always have amazing guests on the show. Today is no exception. Joining us from Westfield, Indiana is Tom Braden. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Daniel. Pleasure to be here.
You bet. Yeah, happy to have you on. So you have a pretty impressive resume, Tom. You're currently the VP of Enterprise Technology at IMMI, or IMMI as we like to call it. And I'll let you talk about that in a minute. But you've been at different positions at bakeries, and you served in the Army National Guard. Thank you for your service, by the way. And also, looks like you went to Harvard too. So I'm feeling a little bit outmatched today. But we're certainly glad to have you. Maybe we can start just with, you're welcome. Maybe we can start with just letting you talk for a minute about your journey to this point and what your current mission is at IMMI.
Sure. I've been in the IT business for about 25 years. Took me a little while after college to figure out what I wanted to really do, and been going full steam ahead at it ever since then. Prior to coming to IMMI, we call it IMMI, by the way, because we have locations in Europe, and apparently it's difficult for them to say IMMI, also for our Mexican plant. We call it IMMI, I guess, because it's shorter to say. So prior to coming here to IMMI, I was director of IT at a pretty large bakery. It was the 6th largest bread bakery in the U.S., Aunt Millie's Bakeries, and that was a lot of fun. I was there for about 8 years, and moved a couple hours south from Fort Wayne, Indiana, down to the Indianapolis area about 6 years ago. 6 years ago in July. So my current role here as VP of Enterprise Technology is responsibility for all things IT related, and the company, we design and build vehicle safety products. So the concept of technology and IT, those permeate every aspect of everything that we do here. So it's a big responsibility, and it's also a growing company. We're growing like a weed here. We're expanding throughout the world, and that carries with it certain responsibilities. And sometimes that's a tough hill to climb, but we're doing it pretty well. COVID has really been a challenge, but we seem to have recovered from that pretty well, and we're going full steam ahead. So.
Yeah, that's great. And I grew up in Kentucky, so I've actually had the bread that that your team baked there. So it's great, good stuff. And it must be great, I would think, Tom, to be able to say you're truly making a difference every day. And a lot of us enjoy our jobs, but to work at a place that's promoting safety for children and school buses and truck drivers and things like that, I mean, you're literally affecting life and death every day. So that's great. We talked in our pre-call a little bit about your test track. Can you tell our audience about that? It seemed like such a neat technology you guys are using there.
Sure. So one of our business divisions, which is right next door here to the company headquarters in Westfield, Indiana, is a facility which we call CAPE, C-A-P-E. CAPE stands for Center for Advanced Product Evaluation. So the CAPE facility is a really big facility, and it's essentially a crash test facility. So it's very similar to how Consumer Reports every year takes the latest SUVs and sedans, and they run them into barriers to check for safety and performance, all aspects of vehicle safety. Well, we do the same thing, except we specialize in large vehicles. So we're crashing vehicles like school buses, ambulances, fire trucks, Freightliner, fully loaded over the road, tractor trailers and vehicles like that. And we also have done quite a bit of work for the U.S. military as well. And it's just a state-of-the-art facility where we can also induce rollover events. And I think that's what makes that facility very special. I believe it's the only one of its kind in this eastern half of the U.S. So it's a pretty special site. And when they ramp up the vehicles and crash them, it's usually a big media event. We have all the local TV stations. Dateline NBC has actually been here a couple of times and done national news stories on those events, because the vehicles we're crashing, especially the concept of seatbelts in school buses, is really something that's hitting home with everybody. You don't all you have to be is a parent or know a parent, to get behind that concept. And
Sure.
IMMI is really at the tip of the spear with seatbelts and school buses, and that facility is one of the primary locations where we are demonstrating the safety of our products and how it saves children's lives. So,
Yeah, that's great, Tom. And I know there's a lot of technology baked into that as well with with iPads and sensors and things like that. So, and also read where I believe you were voted the CTO of the year, I think, for Indiana. So, congratulations on that. That's
oh,
quite a privilege.
thank you.
So, I know when
My
you
wife says
started.
I've been in the news too much, though, so I'm not talking about that one too much. So,
Okay, we'll stay humble, right? That's great. And I know when you started at IMMI, there were, let's say, some gaps in, I guess, in the technology there. And can you talk a little bit about how what you kind of came into there and what you did to mitigate some of the risk that involved with that?
yeah, so when I took the job, I was joking with my wife the other day. It was kind of like you know, when Steve Jobs came back to Apple in the late 90s, he knew that Apple was in trouble, but he didn't realize just how bad it was. And it was kind of a situation like that. The IT department here prior to my arrival, it had been suffering from, just attrition. They had lost a lot of people. Um, you know, IT really wasn't getting the kind of attention that it probably should have. And so when I came in, it was really kind of an IT turnaround type of a job. I had to build a team or rebuild a team. We had to plug the holes. When you're in a situation like that, the first and foremost thing is the IT infrastructure. We've got to make sure that we are keeping our locations up and running. We have to make sure that there are no severe IT security holes anywhere, things that can be resume generating events for people like me. So,
Hmm.
and also we have a duty, I think, to our customers. We have so many people who, their families, are depending on the products we make, and IT is what makes all of that happen. So it was pretty clear that the writing was on the wall. So I spent pretty much the first year and a half that I was here rebuilding the IT infrastructure. We took everything from on-premise. We do have a data center here in the corporate headquarters. We moved all of that out of there into a co-location private cloud facility. And we really have got a state-of-the-art data center at this point. It's right out of Mission Impossible, with the biometric security standards and all that kind of stuff. So I think we've really, really come a long way. And that was really the result of the work of a lot of people here. I mean, I kind of steered the ship, but we've had some really terrific engineers that have worked here with me over the years that really made all that possible. So, and probably the single biggest component of that was, we're a 24/7 manufacturer, and I'm sure that can resonate with a lot of your viewers. Uptime is everything. You can have the best ERP system in the world, the best software, the best cloud-hosted platforms, but if your users can't get to it, then it may as well not even exist. So, keeping all of our remote plants throughout the world and our offices, keeping them up, keeping those resources available to them, that was really mission number one for me. And in our case, the way that we did that was through software-defined wide area networking, or
Yep.
SD-WAN. So,
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I know you're pretty outspoken advocate for SD-WAN and what it did for you guys. What do you feel are some of the biggest business benefits of SD-WAN?
well, and when we looked at what were our business problems, there's lots of SD-WAN providers out there. For a while, about 2 or 3 years ago, it was just an alphabet soup of providers.
Yeah,
Everybody was getting into that, and for good reason. It's because SD-WAN really is a new, more modern way of connecting users to their resources. And for us, we probably, if every SD-WAN provider had 10 or 11 bullet marks that they were looking for in a potential customer, we probably had all 10 of them. We
right.
had an aging infrastructure. We had outdated Cisco routers and firewalls at all of our sites that were nearing the end of their life expectancy. We had poor application performance. You know, we would have cases where team members were trying to do a video conference or watch a YouTube video, and then that was interfering with ERP traffic because of limited bandwidth. And we also had the challenge of having lots of faraway locations. We have plants in China, in Wuxi, China. We have a plant in Morpeth, England. And when you have sites that are that far away, that usually results in two things: packet loss and latency. And those
Sure.
things simply result in a very poor user experience, and disconnects and all that. So that's where SD-WAN for us really shined. In our case, we chose Silver Peak, and Silver Peak SD-WAN gave us a great tool set, the ability to create business intent overlays or policies to prioritize certain types of traffic. So now we give priority to the ERP system, and maybe we give less priority to YouTube or things that we don't want our users doing during the day, perhaps. So things like that, just the ability to fail over to a backup internet connection seamlessly and without any human intervention needed. That was huge because we have a limited IT staff, like probably most of the people watching this program, and we just don't have people to jump into action at 2 o'clock in the morning when one of our locations goes down. So SD-WAN really gives you a tremendous tool set to be able to fail over to even to a cellular connection, just to keep that site up and to keep business flowing. So that's probably been the single biggest revolutionary thing for us with SD-WAN. So.
Yeah, that's great, Tom. And you're right. That technology's really come a long way in the last few years. It used to be almost just a failover type technology, and now now it adds so many different features where you can do the packet prioritization, application, traffic shaping, and things like that. So yeah, it's been fun to watch that kind of unfold globally. And you guys are a global company too, so I know that's been important for you as well. So what advice would you give to someone that's looking at an SD-WAN solution right now, other CTOs and CIOs out there?
Yeah, and I've traveled across the country in the past year giving keynote addresses and lectures about that very topic. I think the best thing to do, and this probably sounds very simplistic, but the best thing to do is to do a very deep vetting process. Do your homework. Talk to 3 or 4, or in our case, 5 different SD-WAN providers. Don't necessarily believe the literature that you get. Do a deep analysis and figure out which features can you actually make use of. Consider things like which company which company's going to be around tomorrow. There has been a lot of coalescing of SD-WAN providers, as we know, and the cream rises to the top. The companies that are in it for the long term are still in it for the long term. I think it behooves you to go with a big player when it comes to SD-WAN and not Billy Joe Bob's SD-WAN provider, because you don't want to be the first guy on your block to break in a technology like this, something that's so critical to your IT infrastructure. So what we did is we just made a very simple comparison chart. We listed all 5 companies on a piece of paper, a single 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And we basically just did a scoring analysis. We picked the 5 or 6 things that were the most important to us, and we assessed a score based on all the presentations we sat through and all of that, and we came up with a winner, the company that checked the most check boxes for us, if we want to say it like that.
Sure.
And we've been very happy with our choice, but I think it's that concept of measuring 3 times and cutting once. This is not a platform that you want to do a rip and replace every few years when you get fed up with it. You want to pick the horse that you want to ride and stick with it, because you're probably going to have that equipment at your sites for 5, 6, 7, or 8 years even. So.
Yep. No, I think that's great advice, Tom.
Yeah, I think that initial homework phase really is the smartest thing. And as long as you do that, one other real quick piece of advice: most SD-WAN products market themselves as getting you away from the command line interface. All of the big players do that because they want you to do everything from a graphical user interface, and that's very attractive. The problem is, prepare yourself for a very complex graphical user interface. Yes, it's all GUI, but it takes a little bit of learning, and that's one of the things we liked about Silver Peak is they offered training and certifications, so we went and did that, and so we're very comfortable with it now. So.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. I especially love the advice on, confirming what the actual solution does and what it looks like, and not necessarily just believing the marketing material. Most providers have the same or similar list of features, but the devil's in the details, as they say on that piece. So yeah, I think that's great advice. So, but we're going to wrap up here. But we always love to ask this one question of each of our guests, and that is, what's one characteristic that you feel makes a tech champion?
I think in this world, a tech champion is defined primarily by one thing. We have to be the business. We don't want to partner with our companies that we work for. As an IT manager, you have got to intertwine what you're doing with the business. The concept of siloing IT into a separate consultancy almost, that just never works. This is the age where CIOs, CTOs have to be completely involved in every aspect of the business. And it takes time. It's not always easy, but when you insist on that and when you build a culture around that, then the concept of those IT silos is broken down forever and you truly become one with the business. It's taken me a while to do that here at my company, but I think we finally turned the corner, and hopefully some of your viewers will do the same. So,
Yeah, I love that concept, Tom. That's great. And years ago, I've been in IT for 2 decades now, and IT used to kind of have the blinders on, like, I'm going to fix your computer, but I'm not going to do anything else. Don't involve me in the actual business. And now today, it's almost the opposite of you've got to have that business mindset each and every day. So that's great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Tom. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, so I'd love to connect with anybody that would like some advice on your SD-WAN journey or your digital transformation. Or you can email me at tbraden@imminet.com. Those are probably the two best ways, and I'd love to help anybody that would like to talk. So,
Okay. Well, thanks again. You've been a great guest, Tom. We really appreciate your time today. And thanks, everyone, for joining. I'm your host, Daniel Beaty, and we'll see you next time on Tech Champions.